Wow, everyone, we've had such a great time so far. What I want to do is I want to introduce our new series. We just wrapped up our Vision series, kind of talking about who we are as a ministry and kind of where we're going as a ministry, that we have these 4 things that we're really about here. And you can kind of go back and talk to me or Jimmy if you want to hear more about those things for that. But what I want to do is I want to introduce a new series that I'm going to kind of kick off, and then Jimmy's going to start to run with after my departure. And it's through the Gospel of Mark. And here's where I kind of chose the Gospel of Mark, because Mark, in the very beginning of his Gospel, makes a really bold claim that this is the beginning of the Gospel of Jesus Christ, the Son of God. And then he fleshes out this letter about who Jesus is, and it ends in a really confusing kind of way, that Jesus has just been crucified and he rises from the dead. And Jesus comes to people and he says that he's living, and people are afraid and they run away. Which is really weird, because after Jesus says all these things and they run away, it kind of forces you to go, why would they do that? You know, Jesus just rose from the dead. Why would they just run away? And it calls us to question, man, what am I going to do with this news of Jesus? So I don't know where you are. I don't know all of your particular stories, but this week, I want you to kind of consider, man, what will I do with this news of Jesus that I've heard before? I know a lot of us have gone to church, and a lot of us have been raised in the church, and we struggle in different ways to figure out, man, how am I going to live out this good news of Jesus? So I encourage you to lean in. I encourage you to kind of figure out, man, what am I going to do with this? And we're going to go from there. But with that, we're going to talk about the opening of Mark, chapter 1, verse 1, because it is a loaded, full, huge, wonderful, big statement that I think I miss a lot of the time. So we're going to talk about claims, and we're going to talk about calling, but what I want to do is I want to unpack that first verse for you guys. So you can open up to it now. I know it's going to be on the screen. It's Mark 1:1, the beginning of the gospel about Jesus Christ, the Son of God. When I first read that, I go, okay, cool. You know, it's the beginning of the gospel. I've heard that people say gospel of Jesus a lot. About Jesus Christ, yeah, that's his last name. The Son of God, yeah, he's God's son. I don't know how that all works out, because he's kind of God, but I guess he's not, because he's God's son. Got it, beginning of the story about that guy. And I think we miss a lot of this. Because here's the thing, this is a scandalous, loaded term. Loaded sentence. Because this is the beginning of the gospel. The gospel is the church word for good news. The beginning of the good news about Jesus Christ. And the name Jesus means God saves. You know, there's a lot of people in that day of age whose names were Jesus. You know, it was a popular, familiar name, but it means that God saves. So this is the beginning of the good news about how God is saving through this guy. His name is Jesus. He's a real guy, the Christ. And now Christ is the Greek word. You know, the Bible wasn't written in English like we have it today. The Bible was written in Greek and Hebrew. And particularly this book was written in Greek. And Christ is the Greek word for the Messiah. We hear this word a lot in the Old Testament. And Messiah just means anointed one. It was this person that was going to come, and he was going to kind of redeem Israel from suffering and from slavery, and kind of figure out their problem with why people are so bad and don't love God. This person was going to come and make all of that better. And a lot of people in that day and age had in mind that when Jesus came, or the Messiah came, what would happen is he would free them from bondage and slavery. You see a lot in the Old Testament. So this is the beginning of the good news about how God is going to save people from bondage and from slavery. But it keeps going, and then it says the Son of God. And now, I'm going to give a quick kind of overview of this word, and we're going to jump into kind of the cultural context about it next. But when it says the Son of God, it says someone who's coming in the character of that person. And yes, it's a claim on his divinity. Do not miss me on that. Jesus is God. He's God's son. That's how we talk about him. However, it's a bigger statement than that. And I don't want to just reduce this text to say, yep, Jesus is God. Because here's what's happening, and we're going to kind of move on. There's a lot of different baggage around that word, Son of God. What happened is Julius Caesar, he said, I am God. So when I die, I'm going to go to Mount Olympus. That is where the Roman gods would go. And what's going to happen is I'm going to set up a temple and a priesthood in my honor because I am the Son of God. I'm coming in the character and the nature of God. So when Mark is writing, he's writing to some friends in Rome. And he says, oh, you see these signs everywhere that say that Caesar is the Son of God. But I'm going to make a claim that, you know what? Jesus is the Son of God, which means that he's bigger and he's more powerful and he's more amazing. And he has the keys to this world that he could actually do something about it. So this is the beginning of the good news about this guy, Jesus. God saves. And he's going to save people through redeeming them and freeing them from slavery, but he also has the power to do it. And that is a bold claim. Because it's not only a political claim, it's a worldview claim, and it's a claim that wrestles with us in the very nature to who we are. That you know what? And sometimes I don't believe that God is that person and Jesus is that person. I don't believe that he's the one that's going to free me. And I don't believe that he has the power to do it. And I believe that. And that's heartbreaking for me. I know it's heartbreaking when I talk to you guys that are in that place. So what I want us to do is I want us to wrestle with, is Jesus really that person in my life? And I want to start by sharing a story about, I guess, punk rock Jesus. It's pretty funny. It's really a generally funny story. But I had to make a claim about who Jesus was. And that's why I want to tell it to you guys. Because as Mark makes a claim, we make claims about who Jesus is all the time. So it kind of forces us to wrestle with who do we claim Jesus is? But here's the story. So I was in a band in high school, and our band was playing a show that night, and we were closing, so we kind of got there and we set up all of our stuff in the sound check, and we pulled it off because the other band was going to kind of come on and do their sound check that we kind of got lined up to play with, and it was a local show, so it's not like we're touring with these people. And the band that we're playing with is not about Jesus at all. If anything, the dude has a shirt on that's like Jesus should, like religion should die, kind of thing. He is not about God. And I remember he's kind of like saying how religious people are terrible and all these different things. And I'm a Christian in high school, so I'm like, man, I want to live for Jesus and I want to love people, but no, this is a little spooky. He's pretty agitated about religious people. And I was vocal about my faith, not in a preachy way, but if someone asked me if I believed in God, if I was religious and if I followed Jesus, I would say, yeah. So, we're there, and he kind of knows who I am, and he goes, hey, I heard you're one of those religious guys. And I think to myself, man, this is a great opportunity, but how am I going to, tell this person about Jesus? So, I can't believe I said this. I don't know if I fully agree with it now, but this is what I said. He goes, hey, are you one of those religious folks? And I go, no, I actually hate religious people. And he goes, what? Why? And I say, well, I think that I think that religious people actually aren't good people, that they're mean and that they're not kind to people and they're uncompassionate. And he goes, I know. And we start talking about how we don't like religious people, which is just blowing my mind. Because I'm somebody who goes, somebody that goes to church. I'm like, well, I don't like religious people because they're legalistic and they're uncompassionate. And do you know who didn't like Jesus people? Who didn't like? Sorry, I said Jesus people. Who don't like religious people either? Jesus. And he goes, what? And I go, what happened was there's these people called the Pharisees. They were religious people, and they actually crucified Jesus. So Jesus is with you too. He doesn't like religious people. He called them out all the time. And this atheist dude is all worked up. He's all worked up that, the Pharisees crucified Jesus. And we're all freaking out about it. And I'm like, dude, you should come to my church because we don't like religious people either. And he's like, well, I gotta come to your church, man. And this atheist dude, that my band's playing a show with, all fired up about Jesus. And I remember I brought him to my youth group and I brought him to my church. And he never gave his life to Jesus. But I made a claim about who Jesus was, that Jesus is not a religious guy and he loves you so much. Jesus is not somebody that's for legalism, but he's the one that's going to free you from slavery. He's the one that's going to free you from, where you struggle in your life. He's the one that actually has the power to do that. And I had to make a claim about who that Jesus was. And that claim had that person who was against God have the opportunity to hear the good news of Jesus. I had to make a claim about that. So my question for you is, what claim are you going to make about Jesus? That he can't free you? That he isn't powerful? Or that other things are bigger and better than him? is I don't want us to limit who Jesus is. A lot of times I'll talk to people and they'll think Jesus is polite and kind. And they'll think that, he's great, but he doesn't have a lot to do with my life. But when we think about Jesus, that this is the beginning of the good news about Jesus Christ, the Son of God. Man, he can redeem you in every situation. It's not just 2,000 years ago. It's not like he lived and died and it's over. He rose from the dead, and that gives us an opportunity to be saved from all of the things that we struggle with now. So I don't know where you're at in your life. I don't. But I know that those of you who I do know where you're at, life is a struggle a lot. And we have to question a lot of things. And we're not too sure if we're going to keep going with this whole Jesus thing. But when Jesus died, he rose from the dead, that gave you the ability that, he can free you right now, today, because of the cross. And all the places that you fear, you struggle, you have shame. Even circumstances beyond you. So don't limit Jesus. Because Jesus is far greater than our circumstances, than our stresses, our political problems, and he will do something about it. And I want to say one thing about those political problems. Because sometimes we think, no, not really. No. But I have a friend right now. He's a dreamer, which means that he was under the DACA law, which means that he can get his green card because his parents came into America illegally, and he became a legal citizen because of his parents. He didn't have a choice about it. So President Obama passed a law, and it says that these people can have an opportunity to get their green card. President Trump just overturned that and said Congress is going to deal with that issue. So I'm not going to get all political on you, but what I know is I have a friend who was wrestling if he's going to be an American citizen, if he's going to have to move out of the country within a year from now. And that's heartbreaking because he grew up in America. He just wasn't born here. So I'm talking to him, what can I do? How can I help you? Do you want me to give you money? I'll give you money. Do you want me to go to the lawyers? I'll give you lawyers. I'll find you. What can I do? And he goes, what, dude? I believe Jesus is strong enough and powerful enough. So, pray that his will would be done. Because I believe 100% that, he is strong enough and powerful enough to redeem my situation, but I trust him. And that's my friends, and Jesus is the Christ who frees me and redeems me. He's also the Son of God, but I'm strong enough to do it. So guys, I want you to open your heart to this good news. Open your heart to this perspective that, wherever I find myself, wherever the circumstances around me are falling apart, wherever my friends' circumstances are falling apart, Jesus saves, and he will save. That's what Jesus does. Jesus isn't mean. He's not rude. He's not judging. Jesus just loves people. And he's compassionate to them, and he saves. That's his name. God saves. And he wants to do that in your life and in your heart. So guys, Jesus is the only way. And we need to respond to this fact. If you hear this good news and you do nothing with it, you're just like the people at the end of this book that run away afraid because they don't know what to do with it. Guys, we need to do something with this fact. And I think there are two places that we can really, really do something with this fact. And I'll do them quickly so we can go into our breakout groups. We need to deal with the places where we don't believe Jesus is the one who can free us and redeem us. He's not. We don't believe he's the Messiah, the Christ. We don't believe that. And also, we don't believe that he's strong enough to do that either. And in the places in your life and in your heart that you struggle with that, you need to reconcile that fact as soon as possible, because Jesus wants you. He wants your heart, and he loves you so much, and you need to respond to this fact. So when we go to our small groups, you can talk about that, or maybe sometime this week you can take a bunch of alone time and go on a walk with Jesus and go, you know what, I don't know where I'm at with this, but Jesus, I know that you're good. Claim that. There's this other part of Mark where it says, I believe, help me in my unbelief. So choose, even though you may not believe it, that Jesus is for you and that he loves you. And here's the thing, and this is the claim I talked about with Punk Rock Jesus. I think everyone needs to know about Jesus. I think everyone needs to hear this good news. And everybody needs that right. If I believe that the only way for a good and abundant and full life is through Jesus, and I don't tell people about him, and I don't love people like Jesus does, you know what? I actually don't believe that Jesus is the only way to abundant life. I don't. But if I do believe that, then I'm called to tell everyone about it. So in your breakout groups, there's this question, and it's literally just, who are you going to tell about Jesus this week? Because, everyone deserves to know about Jesus. Everyone does. Guys, open your heart to this. Don't let sports, don't let school, don't let that perfect GPA, don't let Instagram likes and busyness and just laziness get in the way of this good news for your life. Deal with it. Deal with it now. Jesus loves you. He is the one that can redeem you. He is the one that's strong enough and powerful enough to do it. Guys, pray with me. Jesus, thank you so much. Help me to lean into this fact that, you love me so much and you love us so much. Help us to do that. In your precious name. All right, guys, we're going to